This is Semperfi 1918. So, little post update. So, I'm working with the short-term disability, and I'm going to give you a quick note on this. That way you guys can learn that short-term is not an easy case to take. Unless you have an easy case, which is very rare. So here's an example. My case, basically they said, well, you may be injured, but we don't have enough ample evidence. I'm like, okay. So, meanwhile, I'm working on trying to get it overturned so that way I can get paid the short-term disability, which I'm over the 180 days anyways, to get paid the short-term, which they owe me $8,000, but that's beside the point. So we're going to go back, and with the information I got that I sent them back in early December by fax, which was 44 or 48 pages, I can't remember exactly, but it was something like that, 44 or 48, including the front cover. They claim they only got a whopping 29 pages. Even the guy down at the VA, VA hospital, with the release of information down there in the basement, basically looked at me. He's like, that sounds funny and fishy to me too. I was like, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I can see even with the ink on, and I know for a fact if you put it through and the paper's out, guess what? It waits till you load up the paper, and even if you shut it off, it remembers, and it still pushes that information through. How do I know this? Because I've seen it done more than once. They also said, well, maybe they didn't send the whole thing through. I said I stood there for 35 minutes. Well, stood / bent / whatever for 30 to 35 minutes, watching them stuff every single piece of paper through and making sure it went through. Which, by the way, you get a code that says it went through, otherwise they don't charge you. So, that said being done, I think they're pulling my chain as far as how much paperwork they got. Well, we only got blah, blah. No. So then when I went back there, I said, okay, well, what's the address and all this other information and the fax number? So I went down to the VA, down to the release of information, and what did I do? I did this. I had them mail it. This time. Big, huge packet it was going to be. Well, no. They said that they didn't receive it. And by the way, once they said they didn't receive it, I was like, wait a minute, you didn't receive it? This was back in January 26th, and we're talking about it's or December 26th. The guy said he worked on it that day because he didn't have anything else to do. And you're telling me that you didn't get the paperwork yet? No. Okay. Fishy. I know. So now let's break it up a little bit further. So then I called them up this morning. Right now it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I called at about, I think it was like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And that's when I found that out. And then on top of that, they told me, oh, well, you sent it to the wrong address. You're supposed to send it to this other address. I'm like, you mean to tell me you told the person I talked to on the other end of the line said the other address? And that's exactly where it's supposed to go. Well, they gave me the wrong address. What do you mean they gave me the wrong address? So sure enough, I went and I explained to the system, explained to the gentleman down in the VA ROI standing for Release of Information. We set up this thing. I send a new document, and he says this time we're going to fax it, and here's the numbers. So if they are missing any paperwork from what I sent, they can call me directly so I can get that information to them. Because he already signed the paperwork and stuff. Now, if they're talking about anything extra, no. But they can call me if they're having any issues while we're sending it through. I'm like, alright, cool. So, that's it being done. And on top of that, I also am having them call me in case if something's going wrong, they didn't get it, or whatever. And then I can get it all figured out from there. So, behoove you, anybody that's out there that's trying to get this stuff figured out for your short-term disability and all that stuff, make sure you have documentations. Make sure, here's the other thing too that I want you to do. If you can't work, like me, Make sure your doctor signs off and says, yep, nope, I'm keeping them home, or whatever the case is, that here's the limitations. And make sure you have a good doctor too, because otherwise it's going to screw you over. Then on top of that, here's the other thing I want you to do. So not only do you have your doctor signing off on you, stating that, yes, okay, blah, 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 then you also have another feature. Making sure they give you the limitations of what you're supposed to do. And prospectively, if you're getting better or not. Make sure you have all that documented. Because it'll make it a lot easier. And like I said, make sure you got a good doctor that's going to help you out, not tear you down. Because my last doctor, we fought knuckle back and forth. Like, she literally saw me walking with the cane, hardly able to bend over, looking like I'm 150 years old, and you're telling me that I can still work at the type of job I do? Bourgeois. Talking about lifting 50 pounds and I can't even hardly move. Yeah, okay. Bending and twisting, doing all that stuff? Yeah, okay. So now the next thing you need to do, now that you have to have your doctor sign all that stuff and get all that stuff and stating, yeah, okay, whatever. And also, make sure your doctor also says, yes, he does need a cane. Or whatever elements you need for that stuff and the pain medications you're on and so on and so forth. And make sure you're taking them. The only reason why I stopped one of my medications was because I was already taking Tylenol, and I didn't want to mix the Tylenol with the medication I was on because I had a cyst on my back that was removed about 3 weeks ago. So for a couple of weeks while I was taking the aspirin, I didn't want to do that. Plus also, I also reduced the aspirin because I ended up taking NyQuil for about a week because of all the GERD issues I've been having too, which was keeping me up at night and everything else, hacking up a lung, throwing up. And so we treated it like it was bronchitis, which means I got a lot of, as you can see, I'm still coughing, residual cough. I still get phlegm every so often. But that said being done, that's another thing too. So let's go back to the whole back injury and everything else. So if you need a cane and everything else, make sure your doctor prescribes it and says that yes, you do need it, and so on and so forth. That's the only thing I'm lacking in this one. Lackluster. Then on top of that, with your HR department, hopefully you have a good HR, like I did. And with that HR, here's what I want them to do. Number one, with your doctor, make sure she knows how to do limitations. Bring those limitations to your HR department. And with your HR department, they give you a note that says, well, due to the limitations, we are unable to accommodate. So that's half your battle there. Now, the short term may say, well, according to this, you still can be able to work. Well, technically, no, because my work had already said with these limitations that I was given by my doctor, I cannot do those things. So therefore, it kind of doesn't quantify with what you're saying. So, make sure you have evidence, and more evidence. So, that's with the short term. Now, I'm going to go back with the VA rating stuff. It's taken a while. So, what you need to do is either A, you hire somebody to help you out who's actually accredited to be able to help you do these things and fill it out and has proof that they know what they're talking about. Or B, VSO, find somebody that you know and can trust, even, going through, because I know some people, they kind of stink. Some VSOs, they suck at it. Some American Legions have people that do it, but they suck. And then others, I'm going to say that because some do. Some have no idea what they're talking about. Like my VSO, she's very good at doing some of this stuff, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to hire somebody to do it because I needed to have it done the right first time and make sure everything is done because this is what their job is. So yes, am I going to have to back pay? Yes, once I get the money coming in, yes, I'm going to have to. It kind of sucks, but at least I should be getting either 70 or 90% when it's all said and done, and then I'm going to cook up to the 100% because I'm completely disabled. So now you got that aspect there. Then we're going to flip onto the other side is you have to have these three elements. One, It has to tie to the military somewhere, some way, shape, form, or another. So in your documentation, you have to have, oh yeah, I broke my back. Or like with me, I happen to have at least one spot in there where it says I was on temporary light duty, which should have been permanent, which I have told him before, because my doctor, the doctor I'm talking about that I switched out, way back when, it should have been a clue, bing, 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 when she was not going to put me on permanent duty. She put me on temporary duty, which ended up getting me out a few months early, which is kind of okay, but whatever. But anyways, that's the point. That's another point there. So if she would have put me on permanent duty, once I got out, I would have been able to be 100% disabled right away, which lost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm serious, thousands of dollars. So if I would have been with that and been able to get out with 100% right away, boom, I would have been able to get, currently, I wouldn't be fighting for the $3,737 a month. And at that time, it would have been like, I don't know, $3,400 or something like that, $3,000 a month 5 years ago. I don't know what it was back then, but even so, I would have been able to be at 100%, which means you can do that while still working. If you're able to, whatever. It depends on how you get it. If you have permanent disability with TDIU and stuff like that, then no. But if you have, because the disability keeps you from working. But if you go the other route and you have, like myself, like GERD at 60%, and then you get back injury at 40 or 50%, and then you got hearing, which they're taking that away or trying to change it or whatever, and I think it's so stupid and ridiculous that it needs to be stopped, and I need to call my senator and say, hey, what's going on with this? This is what they're trying to do. We need to knock that off. So with the hearing, that 10% there, let's just say we'll add another 20% for your knee, and all these things, they add up to 100%, even though it's VA math. And so VA math is like basically 160 to 200 points or percent in order to get your 100% rating. It's kind of messed up. But anyways, that's the long story short. If you go that route, then you still can work. But if you get TDIU, which I might have to get if it hits 70%, because I have, so let's just say I got 30% GERD, and I get the max out the back rating with the rest of the stuff, and I get a total of 70%, then I might have to go TDIU, which means obviously I will never be able to work again, which I can't work anyways. So it worked for me anyways. But let's just say I was able to work. You want to go the other route, which means you can bring home that much more money. And it's all tax-free. So here's the other thing too. I know you veterans out there are stubborn as an ox just like me. The disability, the VA disability, is what you earned. Okay? Whether it's 0%, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, or 100%, you earned that. That's just like going down to the dealership and and let's just say you rent a car, right? You are paying, so like for instance, let's just say you pay for a brand new car, right? And you're renting it out. When you trade it back in, if you use too many miles for it, you get a penalty. So this is basically what they're doing, is they're paying you a penalty for what they used. So anything that's tied to the military. So if you got a broken leg and everything, and so now you got a bad back because of the secondaries and so on and so forth. If you got sleep apnea, sleeping disorders, mental disorders, the whole 9 yards, whatever you rate, go get it. Because in the end, when you get really, really old, even if it's at 0% and you rate it, it's a lot easier to upgrade than it is to backtrack and go get you that percentage rate down the road when you really, really, really need it. So that's the way that works. I know this is about a 15-minute video, but I just wanted to let you get on a little bit of information from both sides of the house. So, December 5, 1918, out.